Welcome to the Baker Museum here in Northwest Iowa. I'm Janice Lindgren Harmon, the granddaughter of Ward and Hazel Baker. This house was built for them as a wedding present in 1919. Come join me on a tour of the home.
The two-story farmhouse homestead was actually a wedding present from Ward's parents, Frank and Sue Gray Baker, and was originally situated just east of the current location. Today, this area holds host to a park, splash pool, and rental properties. In the late 1950s, the government bought the land via eminent domain to build military housing for officers of the Strategic Air Command. At that time, the home was moved to Highway 75, later renamed South Lewis Boulevard. The house was moved again to its current location in 2002, where its third foundation was poured and a new basement was dug out. On this tour, you will see the original built-in kitchen cabinets, living room fireplace, dining room china cabinets, and other highlights of the museum. You will also learn some of the history of the Baker family and their impact on Sergeant Bluff, Iowa. The oval wedding portraits of the original owners of the home, Ward and Hazel Baker, are hanging on either side of the door in the living room. Ward Baker was a prominent member of the community and the president of the grain elevator. The large gold oval molded frame over the fireplace holds Frank Baker, who had this house built for his son in 1919. He established the Pioneer Valley Savings Bank in 1907. The bank was renamed Pioneer Bank and continues serving Northwest Iowa to this day. The parlor furniture consists of Civil War and High Victorian periods in the living room. The Civil War walnut stackable bookcase holds Godey's fashion books. Other furniture of the period consists of a leaded glass bookcase, a rush wide armchair, and a cherry oval mirror. The living room also features seasonal exhibits, including Hazel Mather's 1914 wedding dress. Kerosene and banquet table lamps were used at the end of the 19th century. The hanging and sconce light fixtures were originally gas lights and later were converted to electricity around 1920. Frank Baker was very involved in getting electricity to the area. The Victorian red puffed velvet settee and matching chair was a look for the first decade of the 20th century. The needlepoint footrest was stitched around 1940 by Hazel Baker. This shadow box displays the visiting cards of friends and relatives. Hazel Baker's hand carrying case with her visiting cards is shown on the top of the dental case. A stereoscope entertained guests along with the Brownie camera photos. The Godoro type is the earliest portrait photography shown in small padded book frames. When visitors did come, often the Victrola was playing for social events. The Sears and Roebuck Company's pump organ was owned by Edna Lindgren. She taught 3 generations of students. It was enjoyed by singers accompanying the music player. In the dining room are 2 portraits in their original frames. An 1895 sepia portrait of Sue Gray shows her in her high-fashion lace blouse. Their infant son, Ward Baker, is viewed in the deep red velvet layered frame. Sue Gray Baker was a local noted artist. Her oil painting of deer in a winter blizzard snowstorm was done around the turn of the last century. The charcoal serene pastoral landscape was another medium she tried and is seen above the 1943 Admiral television. In the center of the dining room is a large mission oak pedestal round table with extension leaves which expands to seat 25 people. The walnut rocker with mother-of-pearl inlay was owned by Frank and Sue Baker. In the corner between the windows is a homemade attaché by the Johnson, Nebraska family. They saved everything. It's made with wooden sewing spools held together with rods inserted in the center of the spools. The sideboard china cabinet was owned by Ward and Hazel Baker and has been in this location since the house was first opened. Next to the china cabinet is a pass-through from the kitchen to the dining room. The swing door kept the dining room separate from the country kitchen. The kitchen still has its original floor-to-ceiling built-in cabinets, which includes its large flour, sugar, and bread tin bins. The wood floor was refinished after the 1950s asbestos tiles were removed. Recent displays include a laundry exhibit with cast irons, early cookbooks, and home-sewn aprons. On the wall along the staircase is a permanent display of kitchen utensils, which includes wooden mallets, handmade brass and iron ladles, and plastic-colored cookie cutters from the 1950s. On the stairs, there is a collection of butter churns. The oldest butter churn is cone-shaped. It could have been seen in homes in the 1700s. The staircase enables traffic flow from the kitchen to the living room or to the upper floor where 4 bedrooms display themed rooms. As you continue your tour upstairs, you'll be viewing the Pioneer Room, which exhibits mid-1850s bedroom furnishings like this maple rope bed that could be easily carried across the country in covered wagons. This privacy screen conceals a primitive wooden potty chair. The use of chamber pots was important before the use of indoor plumbing. This small chamber pot cabinet dates from 1865 and was owned by the August Lindgren family in Arthur, Iowa. As you step into the hallway, one can open the lid to the traveling trunk for the young bride. The lower trunk section has the original wallpapered interior. Young child brides move from their family's home by buckwagon that were days of travel away from their childhood residence. They often never returned home because of difficult travel. Step into the bedroom, you will find the history of Sergeant Bluff's beginnings. Both Hazel Mather and Ward Baker were born in the Sergeant Bluff area. You can locate the large diploma certificate of admission for Hazel Mather to enter Sergeant Bluff High School September 1911. High school diploma, May 1912. Teacher certificate, 1913, where she taught in the first one-room school in Weedland, south of the town of Sergeant Bluff. The brass school bells were used for teacher Miss Mather to call students to class, recess, or lunch. On display is Aline Baker's Sergeant Bluff High School diploma from the class of 1934. She was the author of Sergeant Bluff's early history, History of Pioneer Valley, The Story of a Century at Sergeant Bluff, published in 1952. This 1950s school desk was Georgia Mather's 5th grade teacher's desk at the Sergeant Bluff Middle School. These early sewing tools include a wood carder, a flax hackle, cast irons, a Florence treadle sewing machine, a wooden loom, and spinning wheels. Down the hall is the fashion room, which has revolving displays with seasonal selections from spring, summer, fall, winter, Christmas, and weddings. The 1910 parasol oak case with dome glass lid was used in a department store. The hat display also changes seasonally. This wall-mounted shadow box contains the 1880s beaded artwork, which was sewn onto the fitted bodice for an additional accessory to a lady's garment. A 1900 department store wooden glove case has individual drawers for black and white gloves, plus varying glove sizes in separate drawers with porcelain doorknob identification. The baby's room started life for the Baker girls and was later converted into a sewing room. The toddler in the picture with the large hat is Aline Baker, Ward and Hazel's oldest daughter, on the homestead farm in 1917. This picture was taken just east of Baker Drive from the museum where the park and splash pool exist today. The popular rocker cradle was handmade in the 1860s by the Baker family. As an infant, Ward Baker slept in this cradle. As you enter the sun porch, you can see the 1950s children's toys. A toddler pedal horse with harness cart is featured. Other toys and family games in their original boxes can be seen, including a family favorite croquet set with wooden mallets and balls. You'll see an early rad robot. A mannequin dressed in green corduroy as Robin Hood was worn by Bill Lindgren for Halloween. You will find a wooden Pinocchio puppet hanging in the corner. The portable record player was used at local dances where it played 45 RPM records in the 1950s. The sun porch was the sleeping room for the Bakers when the summers were hot. This was, of course, before air conditioning, and the windows could be open for good airflow.
Thank you for visiting the Baker Museum here in Sergeant Bluff, Iowa.